What's up, Bruins fans? Jonny Gamet here with Coach U of the men's basketball team. Hard to believe we're just days away from the start of preseason for men's basketball in the 2021-22 season. Coach, thanks for some time. We appreciate it.
Yeah, I'm excited.
Yeah, it's just a few days away, and hard to believe it's our 10th season of Bruins basketball. But I want to go back to last season a little bit. Obviously, we've talked to other coaches in our program about maybe some of the challenges that the COVID pandemic brought. A lot of people outside of sports and outside have their own challenges, but specifically in scheduling, in how you prepare your guys, how the guys were able to play last season, the whole thing was just a little bit more diminished than in previous seasons because you had cancellations, you had all kinds of testing. So just looking back on last season, how do you feel like we did in overcoming a lot of the challenges that were on our plate?
Well, like most of the challenges we face in life, we prefer that we never have them. And then once we go through them, we hope we never have them again. But, in the preseason and stuff I had been knowing in my own devotionals, I had been looking at really controlling what I can control and leaving the rest to God. And, there's a million lessons that could be learned through going through something like last year. But for me and for our team, that's really what we focused on, is do what we're supposed to do, leave the rest to God. And that's really all we can do. And that's such a simple thing. But you and I both know that if we live our life that way, and we're teaching life lessons to our guys, hopefully they learn some lessons from last year that carry over for the rest of their life. And they probably had to endure a lot of things last year that most people don't endure when they're 18 to 22 years old. We started off, and we did have a couple of games. The girls weren't able to start off right away, but we were. But after, I think we played 3 games, if I remember correctly, we were off for 10 and a half weeks straight. So 2.5 months without any basketball. And then we came back. We had one player that couldn't play anymore for the rest of the year. Then our leader, Daniel Fuller, blew out his knee. And then Kenny Garrick messed up his ankle and was out for the rest of the year. And so I think part of the injuries came from being off for so long and then coming back and playing. We stayed. I mean, they stayed training by themselves. They stayed in shape. They did what they were supposed to do, but that was just part of it. And, what I look at positively at the end of the year is Johnson, Tennessee ends up winning the national championship. And when we play them for our last home game of the year, we're tied with a minute left. And so even with all that adversity and losing all the players, all that kind of stuff, we were still a couple of baskets away from beating the eventual national champion. And it was the youngest team the Bruins have ever had. And so I believe with everybody returning and the lessons that were learned, I think there's a lot that they can take into this year.
Yeah, there was a lot of adversity the team faced last year. Of course, Chapman Harwood, the lone senior on the team last year. So as you said, a majority of our team coming back this year, and a lot of the returners that had such an impact on the program last year, as you guys ended last year, and obviously the disappointment in the region tournament of us not probably going as far as we thought we were going to go, and then missing out on the national tournament experience. But how do you feel like that whole end of the season, kind of encapsulating everything of the adversity they faced last year, kind of fueled the fire for the guys this offseason?
Well, we lost in double overtime in the region tournament. And, what I said that day and the first meeting we had this year was I reproduced the box score from that last game and said, you can look at the players that we don't have, and a lot of people will do that, and they will give you built-in excuses. Or you can look at this and realize we had a lot of turnovers. We missed 16 free throws, and I think we had 23 turnovers, which over the course of a double overtime game is not as bad as if it would be during regulation. But those are, again, going with the theme of focusing on what we can do, what we can control. We can't control the players that left, but we can't control a lot of those things. And so, if you've seen Devin has changed his body. He's in the best shape of his life. I know a lot of the guys have come back, and since we're not allowed to practice with them yet, I can't verify. I hear that everything is going well, and I can see them physically and I can talk to them, but I know for a number of them, it was a huge motivation to maybe work harder and be more focused this summer than maybe they were coming out of the pandemic last year.
So as you said, we already have a core group of good returners, but then we bring in a pretty talented recruit class as well. Several transfers who are coming in, as well as some talented freshmen. How do you feel like, as you look at your roster as a whole, 1 to 15 or 18 or wherever it's at, how do you feel like this group is going to gel and do this year?
Well, I'm going to answer that, and it may be a long answer, but when we talked last year or after the season, maybe it was a summer interview, we talked about, we tried to create a schedule that is more like a typical D3 schedule, and we did have that. And there were a number of coaching change or athletic director changes where a number of those games that we had penciled in and verbal confirmation, they backed out for different reasons. And so we filled those spots with Division I games. And so I think, as happens often, I think we have 5 D1 games, and we're playing a lot of really good competition really early, and those are always really tough things to handle. And part of my job as a coach that nobody else has is I have to look at what's going to help us in the future and what's going to help us today, and I've got to constantly balance all of that. And so I think the schedule that we have will help us, and it will help us in the future, meaning second semester, and it will help us as we go into next year. I've got to keep that long-term goal in mind, but in the short term, it's going to be tough. But every time we go through something tough and something challenging, it reveals areas where we need to grow. And I know that's a really long answer, but most of these guys have never played against a Division I team since we weren't able to last year. And so some of the challenges are going to have to be taken on and led by people who don't really have a whole lot of experience doing that. And as far as the freshmen we have coming in, we have 6'11", been hurt a little bit. One of our two tallest guys coming in are probably 2 of our better shooters, and that's just the nature of the game right now. I think they're going to contribute right away. And the reason I feel that is the veterans are, without me asking, they're telling me how much they're enjoying being with these guys and how much these guys are buying in and how much they're listening and how much more quickly they're picking things up in the team workouts than maybe they anticipated.
As we look ahead to this year, if you had to kind of summarize your excitement in terms of what the fans can expect, what you're most excited about coming into this 21-22 season, what would you say?
Well, I work with I'm the faculty advisor for the Student Athlete Advisory Committee. And one of the things that my captain, Daniel Fuller, is the president. And one of the things we've really worked on is sports supporting each other. Maybe we always have, and that's not a new thing, but we are making a concentrated effort along with student life of really making our home court a tough place to play. And we've seen that in a lot of the volleyball and soccer games in the fall. And so I would immediately answer, we played in front of no people several times last year, completely empty gym, and just being back in front of our home crowd, having a lot of that enthusiasm. Most of my guys were there when we played Pensacola in volleyball a few weeks ago, and that was a really, really, really exciting environment for a Friday night, middle of the season game. And that kind of got them juiced for what it's going to be like to play on our home court again. And we don't have a whole lot of home court games first semester, but obviously we pick that up as we get into our conference schedule. So that's really the most exciting thing right now. There's the transfers. The transfers that we have are kids that I recruited originally. And I think there's a value a lot of times of going somewhere, kind of realizing what it is. And I think we talked about it before, but I think transfers have such an appreciation for their opportunity that maybe they didn't have coming out of high school. And not that they were necessarily wrong in what their original choice was, but I'm glad that we haven't burned any bridges. I'm glad that they see something about our school and about our program where even if they didn't make the choice to come to us right away, they eventually end up here. I have 4 guys on our team right now that I recruited, and they were not initially here, but over last year and this year, they've come here. They were all from the same class. And so I don't know that happens too much in coaching, but it's a really unique and it's really a satisfying thing for me that the guys I wanted eventually did end up here, and they ended up here together.
That's exciting. November 18th is the home opener for the Bruins against Montreat College. And of course, season getting underway in just a couple of weeks. Again, Coach, thanks so much for the time. We appreciate it.
Thank you.